Story 1. Kids today will never take computer lab as a course. Literally a class where you spent time on a computer and did whatever, maybe learned a few basic things or just played games the entire time. It was the only time of the day in class when you were on an electronic device. Now, laptops are pretty much used for everything from elementary to high school level. I would guess the only class now where you do not use a laptop is physical education. Story 2. The terror of calling your boyfriend's landline. Ring. Please don't let his mom answer. Ring. Please don't let his mom answer. Ring. Please don't let his mom answer. Click. Gulp. Is Kieran there, please? The embarrassment. Story 3. Kids playing outside. When I grew up, children were everywhere. You couldn't throw a rock without hitting one. Today, you just don't see them. Story 4. Having hope for the future. I missed that feeling of believing that we had all turned a corner. That even though nothing was perfect, we were on our way to seeing a future where we could be. The walls were coming down, Nelson Mandela was free, the Cold War ended, and the internet was going to lead us to the age of information and enlightenment. Just hope everywhere you looked. Then it all changed when those planes hit the towers. Story 5. Landlines are practically non-existent. Even if you happen to have one because of your cable provider, they just are not used. Story 6. The way we listen to music when we are on the go has changed significantly. All streaming applications nowadays, such as Spotify, have replaced older technologies like MP3 players and iPods. Even in the past, listening to music at home typically meant using the radio or playing discs. Story 7. Being anonymous online. Today, people on WhatsApp expect me to use my real name and picture. What is going on? Story 8. Inside thoughts. With social media taking over so much of the internet, there are many people who just express all their thoughts directly in Facebook comment sections or TikTok videos. It's one thing to be open about experiences that can help others, which we used to see as something shameful to discuss, and there are also things people share that should still be considered shameful. Story 9. It's back on, followed by the sound of galloping feet and a leap over the back of the couch. Story 10. Having a phone cord so long that it can stretch between several rooms. Sharing a phone line with 4 other people. Picking up the phone and disconnecting someone's internet connection. Story 11. The Little Black Book. It was a small address book that men carried around to write down women's phone numbers before mobile phones. It was a plot device for many 1980s and 1990s sitcoms since it was a significant issue if you lost it. I made a reference to a little black book recently, and no one knew what I was talking about. Story 12. The concept of a tomboy with literally no inclination toward gender identity or sexual orientation is that girls simply enjoy activities that are traditionally associated with boys, and this is perfectly acceptable, if not wonderful. Story 13. Get outside and do not come back until you hear me call you. No concern for railroad tracks nearby or the random transient. Just get out of her house in sight. Story 14. Houses having color. You would go in and there would be terracotta walls, Aztec pattern sofas, and sun and moon curtains. Now it's whitewashed or gray. Story 15. Striking up a conversation with a stranger in a public place because you are both bored. That does not happen today because when instant boredom approaches, everybody pulls out their phone. Story 16. Getting girls drunk to sleep with them. Consent was hardly an afterthought then, so that was considered a valid strategy. The world is a better place today in that regard. Story 17. Night games. All the neighborhood kids would meet at the manhole in the middle of the cul-de-sac at night and play hide and seek. We knew which yards to stay out of and which ones were okay with it. We made up rules on the fly and it was a different game every week. Kids would leave based on when their parents said they had to be home. Story 18. That feeling of being completely disconnected from your school friends over summer vacation. I had my neighborhood friends and my school friends since I attended a private school. You came back the following school year, eager to catch up. If not completely, you probably communicated infrequently over instant messaging or another messenger, but for the most part, you did not see or hear from them. Story 19. The oldest child was in charge of all the younger children at home while our parents went out and lived their lives. Story 20. Never experienced the 1990s, but from what I have learned about this period, it may be biased towards what the books I have read show. Please tell me in this case. Practically no security in airports. Things coming from the United States were considered something extraordinary, like a seal of quality for European children. Physical, personal computer games. Operating system-less game consoles. Story 21. Downloading a song that was 50% likely to not even be the song you think you are downloading for about 5 hours. Story 22. Low-rise jeans, jeans that were too long so they got wet and frayed, jean shorts. Denim has become very standardized. Story 23. Talking to people involves normal communication and dealing with life issues without a life coach. Want a girlfriend? You better get your act together and make a move. No hiding behind applications and filters. Story 24. Kids without parental supervision playing outside. It is sad on many levels how that is no longer the case. Story 25. My in-laws gave us a couple of audiobooks on CD for Christmas, as we are about to have a major road trip across Canada. They were stunned to find out we had no CD player in the car. Story 26. Watching a movie on a Saturday with the whole village together because not everyone had a television or the electricity to do so. Story 27. Paying by cash. It hasn't entirely disappeared in the United Kingdom, but you get some funny looks from retailers when you attempt it. Story 28. I hear sleepovers aren't really a thing anymore due to overprotective parents. Trick-or-treating pretty much entirely died out where I live as far back as the mid-2000s in a rural place. Suburban neighborhoods used to be filled with kids on Halloween. Now it is far fewer, maybe 15 to 25% of what it was. I guess they do that trunk or treat thing. Story 29. This is the song that doesn't end. Yes, it goes on and on, my friends. Some people started singing it not knowing what it was, and they will continue singing it forever just because. Story 30. TV ads. This generation will never understand the panic when one of your siblings yells, "It's on!" Story 31. Civility in politics. Even if you disliked the other person, you were still polite and civil. That, along with America as a whole, seems to have been tossed aside. Story 32. I was with a stranger and had no cell phone or told anyone. I once attended a Thursday night happy hour in Manhattan in the early 1990s, where I was drinking from 5 p.m. until 2 a.m. I woke up at 5 a.m. still in my suit, but with my pants around my ankles in some girl's apartment in Hell's Kitchen, who rented out her living room sofa bed. I heard a girl screaming, then moaning in the bedroom like someone in a horror movie. It was incredibly loud. Out walks Will Chamberlain, and the girl I was with says, "Yeah, that's her booty call." I got out of there and had the walk of shame to the train. Story 33. Showing up at people's houses, roaming the streets on bicycles or skateboards almost exclusively, and leaving them in the front yard. Calling a movie hotline late at night to avoid waking everyone or being caught on the phone, or relying on newspapers for movie show times, dial-up internet, public phones, or calling collect to leave a quick but desperate message when it asks you for your name, just to name a few. Story 34. Good stereo. Even a good Bluetooth speaker isn't half as good as the JCPenney cabinet components we had. Story 35. Split-screen games and setting up a time to call your friend at his house on the landline. Adam, whom I obsessed over lost tapes on Animal Planet with. I hope you are doing okay. Story 36. Meeting friends and family at the airport terminal. You used to be able to walk right up to the gate. That stopped after September 11th, 2001. Story 37. Listening back to an entire day's worth of answering machine messages at the end of the day. Luck of the draw. An old friend calling out of nowhere to say hello? Your car insurance payment is late and the agent wants to know why? The person you gave your number to at the bar finally reached out? A family member using their one phone call from jail? Story 38. Not knowing things. No easily accessed internet. No ubiquitous global positioning system. Living in a much smaller and less detailed world. Story 39. Neighborhoods are going all out for Halloween and Christmas. I remember as a young child, from around 2004 to 2011, the decorations were elaborate. There was one year I remember in great detail when, on Halloween, multiple houses had created haunted houses and mazes, and one house had a doorbell that bit your finger. For Christmas, my parents would drive us around to look at all the intricate Christmas decorations throughout the neighborhoods. I hardly see people getting into any kind of festive spirit, and decorations for Halloween and Christmas are few and far between. There's a lack of trick-or-treaters these days, more people keeping their porch lights off, and houses doing the bare minimum for Christmas. It makes me really sad. I hope that once I am able to buy a house, and especially when I have children, that I will be able to go all out for those holidays. They are my favorite. Story 40. Itemized billing: a phone bill printed with reams of numbers and call durations, all adding up to a huge bill. It must have been a significant cost to the company sending out all that paper. Story 41. Being out of contact. People used to just wait until you got back to them. Now, people freak out if it takes you 20 minutes to reply to a text. Story 42. Brewers Retail would deliver 2 cases of Labatt 50 to my dad every Saturday. The driver, known to me as Glenn the Beer Man, would stick around and have a couple with my dad before he was off to his next stop. Those were the days. Story 43. Cars without anti-lock braking system, traction control, or automatic transmissions. That big book of compact discs in the passenger seat. Thomas Guides to Navigate the City. Story 44. 1. Having to navigate unknown cities and roads by map. A paper map with a minuscule scale. 2. Travel agents. Otherwise, writing to tourism offices many months ahead and phoning the hotel to make a reservation. Then relying on the miniature and inaccurate map as mentioned earlier. Story 45. Catching lightning bugs. Remember nighttime when they were glowing all around and you would run after them? I have not seen one in years. Apparently, they are going extinct because we have mowed down all the trees. Story 46. Answering machines, payphones, and maps. Going to the airport just for fun to watch the planes land and take off while grabbing a beer and a bite to eat, with no security checks, like none. Address books and Rolodex. Calling information for assistance. Going to school without worrying about getting shot. As a teacher, active shooter drills are now common. I can't imagine growing up with that. So sad. Television limited to a few channels. Reading newspapers and magazines to get the news, which I still do. There is no substitute for good journalism. Reading to find out what movies and bands were playing and where and when, also the price of admission. Looking things up in the encyclopedia or dictionary. Reading in general. Paying extra for long-distance calls and carefully calculating the best time to call a person versus another person. Wondering what time zone they are in and what time of day I am calling from. Lots of fun things in this thread, but some are really sad too. Story 47. Phone books. While remembering phone numbers was challenging, phone numbers are still around and everyone uses them. No, we do not memorize them, but to be honest, back then we only memorized 2 or 3 numbers anyway and wrote everything down. However, phone books are essentially gone. If you did not know someone's number, you looked in the book. Did not know their address? That was probably in there too. You actually had to pay to not be listed in the book, but I grew up with a police officer, so for obvious reasons, our number was unlisted. Story 48. Not sure how it applies to different countries, but where I live, visiting friends and family happens completely without warning. It was not a problem to say you do not have time. It was just accepted as part of the risk. I really miss that. I am currently keeping to myself, but that freedom did feel good. Story 49. Women above a size 0 being called big. Body shaming still exists, but it was something else in the 1990s and 2000s. Story 50. Well, one thing that I totally miss is happy hour. Every bar and restaurant everywhere was competing to see who could outdo the competition. The other is hope for a bright future that comes with being diligent and working hard. Story 51. Waiting until Tuesday to go to whatever store sold the tapes and CDs to see what songs we could sample and to buy an album to take home in the car and listen to from front to back while reading and looking through all the album artwork, costing between $12 and $16. Adding another CD to the visor organizer we thought was so cool. Story 52. Renting games and consoles from Movie Gallery was enjoyable. It was nice not having to worry about refunds when the game you looked forward to turned out to be disappointing. Additionally, you did not have to connect to the internet to play a game. Story 53. Smoking in the high school lounge. Smoking in the halls before class and the student union, which includes restaurants, merchandise, and multipurpose space in college. Story 54. A lot of food companies had rewards programs. Save your barcodes from the boxes and mail them in to receive merchandise. Story 55. Real pen pals. Skip-its. Riding our bicycles all over town. Saddle shoes. Leather jackets with fringe. Getting your forehead burned from your mom curling your bangs. MTV and VH1 playing music videos. People buying and reading magazines and newspapers. Gas costing 99 cents a gallon. Story 56. I guess having a landline phone in the house is becoming rare. I live with my parents and they still have landline phones, but I assume most people do not have that now. Story 57. Does anyone remember the smell of a Blockbuster or video rental store? It wasn't popcorn or anything. It was almost a chemical smell. Story 58. Movie rental stores. Even during the 2010s, we had one nearby, and we used to go there every Friday so that my brother and I could choose a movie to watch that night or even rent video games for 1 to 2 days. With the rise of streaming platforms like Netflix, they really vanished. Story 59. As a kid born in 2003 and growing up in the 2000s, mostly the 2010s, I remember the holiday spirit. I was excited for Thanksgiving and Halloween, which are in the same month since I am Canadian, as well as Christmas and New Year's. There would be a build-up at school and on television shows for the holidays, and it felt magical and warm. At school, there would be events, arts and crafts, and watching and reading holiday movies and stories. I enjoyed performing in the school Christmas concerts with my class and just the overall vibes. I don't see that today. People seem less happy. In my 5th grade class, we were the school choir. We would sing with microphones during school mass, and we practiced singing as part of class time since our teacher had a piano in the classroom. We even sang Christmas carols at a retirement home before the Christmas break. These days, when I talk to my younger siblings, and even during my last few years of elementary school, I have noticed a significant decline in my city regarding holiday events, decorations, and activities in schools. Story 60. Weird mini-game consoles that could only run one game. I remember a bad basketball game in particular. Story 61. I dislike the minimalist trend in everything. I miss the old design trends. They were much more creative back then. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.